Chapter 5160. Lin Yi couldn't help but express her inner feelings. She felt that her second cousin-in-law was simply a legend. This young man's medical skills were already so exquisite. It was really too shocking. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed that there was someone so powerful. Listening to Lin Yi's words, everyone couldn't help but nod. They had the same idea in their hearts. Hong Zhuang is really amazing. Hong Zhuang, then Beichen and I will distribute this medicinal pill. Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with a warm and bright smile. This was the credit of Hong Zhuang and Beichen. Okay. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded with a smile. Everyone didn't stay in the house for a long time. After getting the immortal spirit pill, they couldn't wait to retreat. Naturally, the sooner they took this kind of medicinal pill to improve aptitude, the better. This way they could spend less effort on cultivation later. Di Beichen also left. The number of cultivators from the Di family this time was not small. Now that he was the young master of the Di family, it was undoubtedly more appropriate for him to distribute this medicinal pill. Thinking of this, Bailey Hong Zhuang was also in a good mood. When I first came to the upper realm, I was worried that it would be difficult for Beichen to return to the family. I didn't expect everything to go so smoothly. Bailey Hong Zhuang sighed with a chuckle. Xiao He sat on the table, facing Bailey Hong Zhuang's delicate face. She imitated Bailey Hong Zhuang's appearance, holding her cheeks with both hands. Yes, the male master's family is very good. Now, after this trip to the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, everyone knows his ability. Of course, they won't have any opinions. I see that everyone is very supportive of the elder brother. You don't have to worry about it in the future. Bai Li Yanche's face bloomed with a devilish smile. He entered the Chaos Ring previously and didn't come back until everyone left. Ever since Bailey Hong Zhuang recognized him as her younger brother, Bai Li Yanche changed the way he addressed Di Beichen. After all, he was no longer in his demonic beast form, so this name was more appropriate. Not long after, Di Beichen returned. From the slight smile on his face, one could tell that he was in a very good mood. Beichen, is everything done? Di Beichen nodded. Everyone has basically started their closed-door training. Mistress. Little Xuanzi looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang embarrassedly. It flapped its wings, and its eyes were full of excitement and expectation. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang could not help but chuckle. She immediately took out a beast spirit fruit and handed it to Xiao Xuanzi. Take it, it's yours. Looking at the round and translucent spirit beast fruit, Xiao Xuanzi had an intoxicated expression as he excitedly flew to Bailey Hong Zhuang's side. Mistress, you're the best. Bailey Hong Zhuang stroked its head and proudly raised her eyebrows. It's good that you know. I know, I've always known. Xiao Xuanzi nodded like a chick pecking at rice, excited. Di Beichen pulled Xiao Xuanzi, who had been sticking to Bailey Hong Zhuang, to the side. Quickly go into the Chaos Ring and go into closed-door training. After sending away the clingy Xiao Xuanzi, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang. Wife, are you thinking of looking for Ziren and Yingying? Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. Her originally delicate face became even more beautiful. You know me the best. Of course. Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hong Zhuang's small hand and slowly walked towards the door. Then let's go quickly. If we're late, I'm afraid that Ziren and the rest have already started their closed-door training. Beichen, Hong Zhuang, why are you here? Shangguan Yingying opened the door and saw the two people in front of her. She was happy but also a little surprised. Chapter 5161. Hong Zhuang has something for you. Di Beichen went straight to the point as soon as he stepped through the door. Shangguan Yingying and Wen Ziren looked at each other before their gazes landed on Bailey Hong Zhuang. Then, Bailey Hong Zhuang took out 2 beast spirit fruit. These are for you. Looking at the 2 juicy beast spirit fruits, a smile appeared on Shangguan Yingying and Wen Xinya's faces. Then I won't stand on ceremony with you. Thank you. Shangguan Yingying blinked. Of course. Bailey Hongzhuang smirked. Why are you standing on ceremony with us? Brother, you've given us so many benefits. It looks like we'll have to hand our lives over to you. When Ziren looked at Di Beichen teasingly and laughed. Di Beichen shrugged. Ever since you insisted on going on adventures with me when we were young, your lives have already been handed over to me. It's been so many years and you still can't change your routine. I'm already yours. What else do you want? When Ziren rolled his eyes. But you're so rich. Who else can I rely on if not you? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Now that they and Wen Ziren had already become a family, they didn't even bother to exchange pleasantries with each other. Xiao Xuanzi has already gone into closed-door cultivation. The wild earth-shattering tiger and the deep-sea demonic dragon should be able to improve significantly with these beast spirit fruits, Di Beichen said slowly. When Ziren nodded. They've been cultivating in the pet space recently. I guess they've been stimulated by Bai Shi and the others. They're all contracted beasts, but there's a huge difference in their strength. When they were in the lower realm, the contracted beasts of the surrounding cultivators were not too powerful. Hence, the wild earth-shattering tiger and the deep-sea demonic dragon did not feel much pressure. However, ever since they came to the upper realm and witnessed all sorts of powerful beings in the divine cloud secret realm, they were stimulated and became more diligent in their cultivation. It's good to give them some stimulation so that they can improve faster. Di Beichen's eyes were calm. The berserk earth-splitting tiger and the deep-sea demonic flood dragon are both very powerful races. Although the growth process is a bit difficult, once they grow up, they will be a great help. That's why I want to thank you for these two spirit beast fruit. Ziren raised the spirit beast fruit in his hand and smiled. Shangguan Yingying glanced at Wen Ziren before looking at Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, no matter what happens, you always think of us. I really don't know how to thank you. Don't be so courteous since we're sisters. Haven't you been helping us all this time? Hongzhuang, actually, we have also obtained some rewards from the Immortal Cloud secret realm. Shangguan Yingying smiled mysteriously. In the next moment, a book appeared in her hand. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. What's this? This is an inheritance that Ziren and I found in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. Shangguan Yingying replied. Previously, we couldn't find you all, right? During the process, we also found some spiritual herbs. We found this in a very hidden place in the middle of the spiritual herbs. Ziren and I have studied it. This should be real. Take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang took a closer look and realized that it was actually the rune technique. Rune technique? Di Beichen was a little surprised. It's said that the inheritance of the rune technique has been lost for a long time. I didn't expect you to find a book that recorded it. Chapter 5162. The things recorded on it are obscure and hard to understand, but they are mysterious and powerful. I have pondered for a while, but I only managed to get a grasp of it. Both of you are smart and have strong comprehension abilities. Why don't you try comprehending it? When Ziren looked at Di Beichen and Shangguan Yingying, I heard you talk about the last time Xiao So crushed the escape talisman and left. I feel that this talisman technique is quite powerful. If we can learn this talisman technique, it would be quite good. Originally, we wanted to give it to you, but there were too many people in the Immortal Cloud secret realm, so we didn't have the chance. After coming back, you immediately went into closed-door cultivation. If you didn't come to find us, we would have gone to find you. Shangguan Yingying smiled and took out a qiankuan bag and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. These are the spiritual herbs we harvested. They are all for you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stand on ceremony and directly took the qiankuan bag. When the time comes, just tell me if you need any pills. Okay. The talisman technique is indeed a treasure. Since you are interested, why don't you study it first? Di Beichen slowly said. You don't know about this. When Ziren chuckled and pointed to the book in his hand, Don't be fooled by the fact that this book is made of paper. It is very magical. Once you read it, the contents will automatically enter your mind. However, after Ying and I read it once, we found that the words on the book were getting fainter and fainter. I'm afraid that it won't be able to withstand a few people reading it. Since we already know the contents, you can imprint it in your mind. It won't be too late to study it in the future. In my opinion, if you want to understand this talisman technique, it won't be done in a short period of time. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying finally understood and sighed in their hearts. I didn't think that this book would have the same effect as the Jade Slip, and it is even more powerful than the Jade Slip. The contents of the Jade Slip can only be read once by a cultivator, but this book can be read by a few people. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the book. As expected, the words on the book had faded. She only took a glance and the contents of the book directly entered her mind. Subconsciously, she closed her eyes. Complex and profound information rushed into her mind. Fortunately, her knowledge sea was extremely strong now, so she quickly recovered. After Bailey Hongzhuang read it, the content of the book became even fainter. Di Beichen took the book and memorized its content. However, after the two of them took a look, the words on the book had completely disappeared, leaving only the white paper behind. This thing is really amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the blank book in her hand and suddenly realized that she could print the content she wanted to write into the book. She suddenly felt that it was interesting. This book is quite good as an inheritance in the future. If you like it, then you can keep it, Di Beichen said in a gentle voice. After this experience, I feel that when I have time, I should learn more abilities in other aspects. Shangguan Ying sighed. Mastering more abilities, I will have more means when I go out. This time, if it weren't for you, we would really be finished. Chapter 5163. Looking at Xiren's envious expression, Di Beichen couldn't help but chuckle. Weren't you worried about me when you first found out that I was a dark-type cultivator? That's because I didn't know you were such a pervert. Xiren looked calm. Look at what everyone says. Dark-type cultivators in the upper realm have always been discriminated against, but when it comes to you, the situation has changed. Didn't you already know that Di Beichen is a pervert? Shangguan Ying glanced at Xiren. I think, no matter what happens to them, there's no need to worry too much. There'll always be a solution. Is that what you said back then? Xiren looked at Shangguan Ying quietly. Why did he remember that Shangguan Ying was even more anxious than he was back then, ahem? Shangguan Ying coughed softly and looked to the side. She said guiltily, I'm suddenly thirsty. I'll drink a cup of tea. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other with smiles in their eyes. It wasn't just Xiren. They remembered very clearly that when Shangguan Ying first found out about this, she was even more anxious than Xiren. However, they didn't plan to expose her. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying returned to the house. Since they had obtained the immortal spirit pill, they naturally had to consume it as soon as possible. The immortal spirit pill could increase a cultivator's aptitude and remove impurities from the body. It was extremely suitable for any cultivator. Time passed by in seclusion. Little Xuanzi returned to the pet space. He had made up his mind. With the beast spirit fruit, he had to improve as soon as possible. Otherwise, with his master's current strength, he wouldn't be able to help whenever he was in danger. Thinking back to when he was able to help in the divine cloud realm, that was the feeling he craved the most. Of course, he also hoped that he could break through to the nebula stage as soon as possible. Then, he could transform into a human. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also began their seclusion at the same time. Looking at the perfectly round pill that was emitting a fresh medicinal fragrance, Bailey Hongzhuang put it into her mouth without hesitation. The immortal spirit pill melted in her mouth, turning into a rich medicinal power that surged into her body. This was an extremely pure energy. Bailey Hongzhuang felt as if her limbs and bones had become active under the surge of this energy. When this energy had completely spread out, Bailey Hongzhuang's, she frowned. Under the influence of the medicine, the impurities in his body began to be expelled. But still, there were still pill toxins and other impurities in the end. The effect of the immortal spirit pill was to thoroughly remove the impurities in a cultivator's body. This way, the cultivator's body would be more suitable for cultivation. Previously, in the pool of light in the divine cloud realm, the impurities in her body had already been removed once. This time, after taking the immortal spirit pill, it should be even more thorough. Although the result of removing the impurities was excellent, the process was very torturous. This feeling was as if someone was hammering every cell in her body, removing the tiniest impurities. In fact, it wasn't just Bailey Hongzhuang. The cultivators from the D family and the Lin family were all in the same situation. The immortal spirit herb was discovered by all of them. Naturally, everyone should have a share of the immortal spirit pill. Chapter 5164. In reality, when the cultivators from the D family and the Lin family received the immortal spiritual pills, they were also extremely shocked. They could not believe that this was all real. Even though they had discovered the immortal spiritual herb together, they knew how rare the immortal spiritual pill was. Therefore, they felt that it was already good enough that they would be given some other cultivation resources when they returned to their families. They did not expect that the immortal spiritual pill would actually fall into their hand. This feeling was no different from a pie falling from the sky. They had suddenly been hit by a stroke of luck. One immortal spiritual pill was enough for them to exchange for any cultivation resources they wanted. However, no one would choose to exchange it. This was because the immortal spiritual pill was the most precious treasure. When Bailey Hongzhuang exited her cultivation, the first thing she did was to take a shower. She had to admit that every time she purged the impurities from her body, the smell was extremely unpleasant. However, as the impurities in her body were reduced, it was much better than the first time she had undergone the cleansing. It was because of this that she had chosen not to go into closed-door cultivation with Di Beichen. Otherwise, even she could not stand the smell. If it appeared in front of Di Beichen, it would be even more unbearable for her. When Bailey Hongzhuang came out, she realized that Di Beichen had already finished his closed-door cultivation. It looked as if he had been waiting for her to come out. Di Beichen, when did you come out of closed-door cultivation? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she sat beside Di Beichen. She casually picked up the food on the table and started eating. After purging the impurities from her body, she felt as if she was about to starve to death. Not long before you, Di Beichen smiled. I knew that you would definitely feel hungry, so I prepared food for you. Hearing those magnetic and heartwarming words, Bailey Hongzhuang, who was eating, smiled brightly. Hubby, every time I see you being so considerate, I feel that my luck is really good. It looks like my wife really feels that she is very lucky every moment. Di Beichen reached out and stroked Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and smooth hair. After all, your husband has always been so considerate. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned for a moment, then her smile became even brighter. That's right. Have you gone out to take a look? Is everyone out of seclusion? Di Beichen shook his head slightly. I'm afraid it will take a while for everyone to come out. You're right. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. She and Beichen had already experienced it once in the ruins, so the process now was naturally much simpler. The other cultivators would need to spend more time. Then what do you plan to do now? I plan to take a look on the deck. Di Beichen said slowly, we're already used to cultivating on the deck. There won't be any danger. I have the same idea. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Previously, after cultivating on the deck, their physical strength had improved. Since they still had the chance, it wouldn't be bad to train again. When they returned to Chishui City, they might be able to improve again. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to the deck, they saw that familiar figure as expected. Chen Feng? Di Baichen raised his eyebrows. Although he was asking, his voice was very calm. In fact, when he chose to come to the deck, he had already guessed that Chen Feng would be here. This guy was also a cultivation maniac. Chapter 5165. I finally understand why you're so strong. You really don't let go of any opportunity to improve. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. When he didn't know Chen Feng, he didn't feel it. Now that he knew Chen Feng, he admired him even more. Hearing that, Chen Feng chuckled. If someone else said that about me, I wouldn't care. However, I don't dare to accept your praise. If we're talking about diligence, you two should be even more diligent. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Tiange hadn't returned to the deck during this time, he knew that they definitely didn't let go of any opportunity to cultivate. Coming from the lower realm, they were able to stand out among so many cultivators. This was enough to prove their diligence. In the past, he had always been very confident. Every time he went out, he was undoubtedly the number one. However, ever since Di Baichen appeared, he felt a sense of urgency. If he didn't seize the time to improve himself, he wouldn't be able to keep his position. Same to you. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. Only then did they sit down and cultivate. The gale clearly blew past, bringing with it a sharp pain. However, the three of them acted as if nothing had happened. However, as the three of them cultivated for a longer time, the number of cultivators on the deck gradually increased. Mo Yunjue was the fourth to arrive on the deck. When he saw Di Baichen and the other two, he was also somewhat surprised. However, he quickly blended in with them. Immediately after, Shangguan Yingying and Xiren also arrived on the deck. They originally planned to study runes first. However, after thinking that they would only have such a good opportunity to train their bodies on this flying artifact, they naturally didn't want to miss it. Therefore, they decided to come on the deck. In any case, when they returned, they would have plenty of time to study it. Time gradually passed in this process. They were also getting closer and closer to Qishui City. Today was an extremely lively day in Qishui City. All the major powers that were participating in the Immortal Cloud Secret Zone were gathered here. Today is the day that the young master and the rest return. I wonder how their harvest in the Immortal Cloud Secret Zone was? A faint smile appeared on Di Hengyun's face. He was actually not too worried. This time, a lot of people from his family entered. As long as they cooperated with others and didn't encounter too much trouble, there shouldn't be too big of a problem. I hope it'll be good. Great Elder Emperor Chu Yuan's eyes were filled with anticipation. In the blink of an eye, it's already time for them to come out. I only hope that they can all return safely. Di Yunhe sighed when he heard that. Of course, their biggest wish was to come back safely. However, they knew that as long as they entered, there would be casualties. It was unavoidable. The elders of various forces had gathered here and were chatting in twos and threes. Their faces were filled with joy and anticipation. Of course, there were also some elders who were worried. When the disciples of the smaller sects entered the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, they would face greater risks than the disciples of the bigger sections. Regarding this, they felt very helpless. But even so, they couldn't give up just like that. This was because this was a good opportunity to improve the strength of the clan's disciples. If they missed this opportunity, the progress of the clan's disciples would be even slower. Chapter 5166. As Di Hengyun's voice fell, Di Chu and Yuan both turned to look at something not far away. Sure enough, Jun Xianshao was standing there with his head raised in anticipation. A faint trace of worry could be seen on his face. Usually, whenever we gather together, Jun Xianshao will try his best to stand by our side. I didn't expect him to stand so far away this time. He must be avoiding us on purpose. Di Yunhe sneered. The competition between the two sides had never stopped over the years. They were already used to Jun Xuanxiao's way of doing things. However, the situation was different this time. Di Chuyuan glanced at Jun Xianshao. Since there is such an opportunity, we can't miss it. He remembered clearly how proud Jun Xianxiao was when he thought that their family didn't have an 8th-grade alchemist. He wanted to trample them under his feet. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, had always been his style. Jun Xianxiao wanted to hide from them this time, but he wouldn't let him do as he wished. Let's go. Hearing Di Chuyuan's words, Di Hengyun and Di Yunhe exchanged glances with each other as a knowing smile appeared in their eyes. Jun Xianxiao was waiting for the flying device to arrive quickly. This time, their family only managed to get 10 places, and they had to do everything they could to get them from the Xiao family. Jun Xianxiao had never encountered such a situation in the history of the Jun family. He felt very helpless. Since Jun Lingxuan and the others entered, he had been very worried. After all, the number of people was too small. If some of them met the Di family's cultivators, they would be in big trouble. Great Elder, you don't have to worry. Our family has already joined forces with the Xiao family. If there is really trouble in the Immortal Cloud's secret territory, Xiao Sou and the others won't sit by and do nothing. The second elder couldn't help but say. He knew the Great Elder's worries, but he didn't think it would be so bad. Hearing this, Jun Xianxiao nodded. I hope so. Although he knew that the Xiao family had joined forces with them, he couldn't help but worry. He didn't know why, but he always had a bad feeling. Just as they were talking, Jun Xianxiao suddenly found that Di Chuyuan and the others had appeared beside him. Elder Jun, you didn't take the initiative to look for trouble this time. This isn't in line with your usual style. A mocking voice rang out. That person looked at Jun Xianxiao indifferently. His face was filled with mockery and ridicule. Jun Xuanxiao's face suddenly darkened. He coldly glanced at Di Chuyuan. Di Chuyuan, I don't want to talk nonsense with you today. Normally, we don't want to talk nonsense with you, but there are always people who don't have eyes and come knocking on our door. What do you think? Di Chuyuan raised his eyebrows slightly. His gaze was calm, but in Jun Xuanxiao's eyes, it was extremely hateful. Don't try to fool me. You were just lucky this time. We'll see in the future. Jun Xianxiao glared fiercely at Di Chuyuan. His roar was filled with anger. Elder Jun, you're too impatient. There are so many people here. You should pay attention to your status, Di Yunhe couldn't help but say. Chapter 5167. Jun Xianxiao, I'm just reminding you out of kindness. Di Chuyuan's face was full of smiles, but his voice was cold and chilling. Actually, only 10 cultivators from your family entered. Judging from the danger level of the Immortal Cloud Mystery Land, they might have all been wiped out. You have to be mentally prepared. Otherwise, when you hear the news, you won't be able to bear it and pass out. That would be bad. As Di Chuyuan's voice fell, Jun Xuanxiao's face turned red in an instant. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like an angry lion. You don't have to worry about that. Don't think that you'll be fine just because you have more cultivators in your family. If you're unlucky, you might encounter a great danger and be wiped out. If all the cultivators in our family are wiped out, won't the cultivators in your family be even more so? Di Chuyuan didn't care about his anger at all. In fact, the more unhappy he was, the happier he was. After all, the Jun family had been trying to replace the Di family all these years. They deserved it. However, in the face of Di Chuyuan's words, Jun Xianxiao didn't know what to say. Because even he knew that it was the truth. It's impossible for all the cultivators in our family to be wiped out. You just wait and see. The second elder's face was also full of anger. He looked at the Di family fiercely, and his words were full of confidence. Wait for us later. When the young master and the others come out, you'll know. Jun Xianxiao nodded. You just wait and see. Then we'll wait and see. Di Yunhe's eyes were full of disbelief. Looking at the other party's proud face, Jun Xianxiao felt like he was about to explode. However, he couldn't explode on the spot, so he could only hold it in. The surrounding forces also looked at each other after noticing this scene. The D family and the June family had been enemies for a long time, so this situation wasn't unexpected. In fact, every time the two sides appeared, they were at each other's throat. They had never eased up. Not long after, the huge flying magic tool appeared in everyone's line of sight. With the appearance of the flying device, a smile appeared on everyone's face. After waiting for so long, it was finally here. Soon, the flying magic tool stopped at the shore. Look, there are already people on the deck. Many elders with sharp eyes noticed the silhouettes on the flying magic tool. So, they immediately spoke out. Isn't that Chun Feng from the Great Devil Sect? That's right, it's him. The other two look like the young master and young madam of your family. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were extremely beautiful, so most people would never forget them after seeing them. Therefore, with just a glance, he was able to recognize it. Di Chuyuan and the others' eyes lit up when they heard this. They immediately looked at the deck. As expected, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's bodies and minds were so eye-catching. Immediately they felt relieved. Although they had always been quite confident, as long as they had not seen it with their own eyes, they could not help but feel a little worried. Although they had only seen the two of them, they were already relieved. It really is the young master and his wife. Di Yunhe's face was full of smiles, and the cultivators behind him were also very happy. Chapter 5168. Jun Xianxiao, it seems like your fantasy has been shattered. Di Chuyuan glanced at Jun Xianxiao indifferently. Although his voice was very calm, Jun Xianxiao could hear his complacency and pride. So many people from your family went, and now only a few of you are on the deck. What is there to be proud of? Maybe you were pushed out. Jun Xuanxiao's face was cold, but his words were full of jealousy. Elder Jun, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that Chun Feng from the Great Devil Sect was also pushed out? The elder of the Great Devil Sect quickly walked over when he saw Chun Feng. When he passed by Jun Xianxiao, he heard his words, and his face immediately collapsed. Jun Xianxiao was stunned when he heard this. When he turned around and saw the elder of the Great Devil Sect, he was embarrassed and hurriedly explained, I didn't mean that. I hope you didn't mean that, humph. The elder of the Great Devil Sect snorted coldly, turned around and left. Obviously, Jun Xuanxiao's words made him very unhappy. Jun Xianxiao was speechless as he looked at the elder's back. He didn't notice Chun Feng at all, and he didn't expect the people of the Great Devil Sect to be nearby. Suddenly, such a conflict happened. He was really helpless. Di Chuyuan chuckled, thinking that Jun Xianxiao also had such a day. When Jun Xianxiao thought that victory was in his hands, he was so arrogant in front of him. Every dog has its day. Who would have thought that their young master's wife would have such ability? In my opinion, the young master and Chun Feng from the Great Devil Sect are probably using the wind to temper their bodies on the deck. Di Yunhe's voice slowly sounded. As an elder, he naturally had some understanding of the situation. In fact, everyone had always known that staying on the deck would help cultivators improve. However, it was one thing to say and another to do it. Even though everyone knew this, there were very few cultivators who could actually do it. That might be the case. Di Hengyun's voice was somewhat hesitant. However, the process is very torturous. After the flying magic tool successfully stopped, the cultivators in the flying magic tool also knew that they had finally arrived at Chishui City. One after another, they walked up from the deck. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were undoubtedly the first to know about this. They had already seen the crowd from afar. Beichen, look. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed ahead. First Elder and the others are already waiting for us. Looking in the direction that Bailey Hongzhuang was pointing at, Di Beichen and the others saw the Great Elder and the others as expected. Smiles appeared on their faces. In the blink of an eye, we have already left for such a long time. What a pity, Shangguan Yingying could not help but say. Although we've been on a flying celestial artifact these days, I still miss the feeling of being on the ground. Xiren chuckled. Let's go, let's get down quickly. At the same time, Di Xiaofeng, Lin Taxing and the others also walked to Di Beichen's side. They greeted each other and got off the flying celestial device together. First young master and the others are all there. Di Hengyun's face was full of surprise. Although only a part of the cultivators could be seen, judging from the situation, there were not many casualties this time. Chapter 5169. All the major forces were looking for their own cultivators from the figures that appeared on the flying celestial devices, and the Jun family was no exception. Why haven't we seen the young master yet? The second elder of the Jun family looked for Jun Lingxuan and the others for a long time, and a trace of worry appeared on his face. Don't worry. There are still many people who haven't come out yet, Jun Xianshao said slowly. He was also anxious, but he didn't want Di Chuyuan and the others to find out. Seeing this, Di Yunhe couldn't help but joke. It seems that your family is really wiped out this time. When you go back, I'm afraid you'll have to support a new young master. Yunhe, stop talking nonsense. The Jun family is not like what you said. Jun Mo Xie retorted. Jun Xianshao shouted coldly, and his serious face was full of anger. The next moment, he noticed that Jun Lingxuan had finally appeared in front of him, and he immediately relaxed. Di Yunhe, didn't you just say that our family was wiped out? It seems that your hope has also been dashed. Second young master quickly followed up and said, Look carefully, our young master has already come out. Di Yunhe turned around and saw Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou. He narrowed his eyes and said, It seems that Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan are really together. Hearing Di Yunhe's words, Di Chuyuan and the others also noticed the situation in front of them, and they immediately frowned. In fact, they had always known that Jun Lingxuan was pursuing Xiao Sou, but they didn't expect that the two of them would progress so quickly. No wonder the Xiao family gave 10 places to them. It seems that they have already regarded Jun Lingxuan as their son-in-law. Di Hengyun snorted coldly. They're really quick to fall in love with someone else. Di Chuyuan, you're right. Our Jun family has replaced your family and become friends with the Xiao family. Xiao Sou and our young master are the real couple. Jun Xianshao immediately regained some sense of superiority, and a big smile bloomed on his face. This was the happiest thing for the Jun family recently. After so many years, they had finally joined forces with the Xiao family. So what if they become a couple? Di Chuyuan's expression was indifferent. Aren't they still forced together because they can't get what they want? Jun Xuanxiao's expression stiffened. He naturally knew that Xiao Sou had a crush on Di Beichen. You can only find the right person after seeing through the other party. Do you really think that Xiao Sou, as the saint of the light, will fall in love with Di Beichen? Isn't it? Di Hengyun said matter-of-factly. I thought you had already seen through this. I didn't expect Elder Jun to be so blind. Jun Xianshao, who was about to mock Di Hengyun, almost spat out a mouthful of blood when he heard Di Hengyun's words. This guy's words were too harsh. Di Hengyun didn't even give him a chance to refute. What was with this assertion? When Jun Lingxuan walked down from the flying instrument, his heart was extremely heavy. Although they were already in a bad situation when they went to the Immortal Cloud Mystery Realm, when they really returned, he really felt that it was difficult to face the family elders. Chapter 5170. After listening to Xiao Sou's comforting words, Jun Lingxuan nodded, but his mood did not calm down. He could not accept the departure of the others, but he could not accept the departure of Chu Shitao. Thinking of this, he wished he could kill Di Beichen and the others, but with his current ability, it would be good enough if he was not killed by them. This kind of frustration was simply indescribable. First Elder Jun, have you noticed that among the 10 cultivators of the Jun family, only Jun Lingxuan has appeared? Di Yunhe had been looking for the cultivators of the Jun family. After seeing most of the familiar figures, he was completely relieved. However, in the process of observation, He also noticed that apart from Jun Lingxuan, there were no other cultivators of the Jun family. Hearing Di Yunhe's words, Jun Xianshao was slightly stunned. After taking a closer look, he was shocked to find that only Jun Lingxuan and the Shao family's team had appeared. Apart from them, there was no one else. Where is the second young master? The second elder was stunned. Generally speaking, wherever the young master is, the second young master should be there. Everyone in the Jun family knew about the brotherhood between Jun Shitao and Jun Lingxuan. At this time, Jun Shitao would never be far away from Jun Lingxuan. Wait a little longer. Jun Xuanxiao's face darkened. For some reason, the bad premonition in his heart gradually deepened. Not long after, Di Xiaofeng and the others arrived in front of the elders. First elder, we are back. Looking at the members of the Jun family in front of them, Di Chuyuan and the others' faces were full of smiles. It's good that you are back safely. On the other side, Lin Xuanren, the first elder of the Lin family, also received Lin Taxing and the others with a happy face. Young master, why is there only Jun Lingxuan in the Jun family? Di Hengyun asked curiously. Almost as soon as Di Beichen and the others arrived, Di Hengyun could not help but ask the question in his heart. Hearing this, Di Beichen glanced at Jun Lingxuan, who was not far away, and said, "It seems that he's the only one left from the Jun family's team." The elders of the Di family, the Lin family, and the Jun family were all stunned. Then, the members of the Di family and the Lin family all had mocking expressions on their faces. Great Elder Jun, it seems that the heavens haven't been unkind to you. At least one person has been left behind for you. Di Chuyuan chuckled as he recalled Jun Xuanxiao's smug look. The current situation was extremely ironic. Jun Xianshao couldn't care less about Di Chuyuan's mockery. He couldn't believe this result. Because there were only a total of 10 slots, those who entered the immortal cloud mystic realm this time were the most outstanding disciples of their clans. However, only Jun Lingxuan had returned. This was a great loss for them. Di Beichen, Di Xiaofeng, and the others looked at each other. If they had found a chance later, they would not have let Jun Lingxuan come back alive. Let's go back. After all the disciples of the Jun family had returned, Di Chuyuan was in a good mood and led everyone back to the elixir shop. He didn't need to say anything more. The situation of the Jun family was enough to give Jun Xianshao a huge blow. At least, the Jun family could not be arrogant in the short term. Chapter 51-71. Great Elder. Young Master, is what Di Beichen said before true? You are the only one who came back? Jun Xianshao looked at Jun Lingxuan with burning eyes. This result was really unacceptable. Di Beichen said it already? Jun Lingxuan's face suddenly sank. I didn't expect this guy to be so hateful. He didn't have to think about it to know that Di Beichen must be mocking them when he said this. His hands clenched into fists, and his heart was burning with anger. After hearing Jun Xuanxiao's words, the elders of the Jun family immediately understood that everything Di Beichen said was true. Jun Xianshao couldn't help but take 2 steps back. This news was really a big blow. Great Elder, are you okay? Looking at Jun Xuanxiao's pale face, Jun Lingxuan asked quickly. Jun Xianshao waved his hand and said, Forget it, let's go back first. After Shao family's elder Shao Jinfeng learned about the situation of the Jun family, his expression was also complicated. This situation was really too tragic. Fortunately, Jun Lingxuan came back safely. If Jun Lingxuan also lost his life in the Immortal Cloud secret realm, then their Shao family really didn't know what the use of getting close to the Jun family was. Looking at the imposing Di family on the other side, he couldn't do anything no matter how helpless he was in his heart. At this point, he could only accept it calmly. After returning to the elixir shop, the elders couldn't help but ask about what happened in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. Lin Qianqian and Lin Yi were naturally the first to stand up and began to talk about the situation inside vividly. Bailey Hongzhuang and others simply sat aside to drink tea and eat snack. Anyway, this moment was most suitable for the two sisters to express themselves. Of course, the most active one was Lin Yi. The great elder and others listened to Lin Yi's vivid words, and a look of surprise appeared in their eyes. The situation in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm is so dangerous? Di Chuyuan and others were also scared after learning about what happened in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. They really didn't expect the situation to be so dangerous. Thanks to second cousin and second cousin-in-law who turned the tide. If it weren't for them, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to come back alive. Even though it had been so long, Lin Yi still had a lingering fear when she mentioned it. The elders looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. This kind of situation was really beyond their expectations. Similarly, they did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's performance would be so outstanding. If it wasn't for everyone's occasional emphasis, they would have found it hard to believe that all this was true. At night, Di Xiaofeng, Di Beichen, and Bailey Hongzhuang went to the Bailey family's residence together. Now that the experience was over, they had to go back to the family first. Before leaving, they at least had to say goodbye to Bailey Yunyan. The great elder of the Bailey family was undoubtedly very surprised. Not to mention that their family's quota to enter the Immortal Cloud's secret realm was given by the Di family. If it weren't for the Di family's protection this time, how could they come back safely after entering the Immortal Cloud's secret realm with their ability? In fact, these days he had been worried. Many forces even believed that they would be annihilated. However, he never expected that all the family's children would come back safely. It was simply unimaginable. Chapter 51-72. Young Masters D. Miss Bailey, you're here. Please come in, come in. Bailey Mi-song's face was full of smiles. Please sit here for a moment. I'll call Yun Yan over. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two sat down with faint smiles on their faces. After this incident, their relationship with the Bailey family had become much closer. Big brother, from Elder Bailey's reaction, it seems like she can't wait for you to marry Yun Yan as soon as possible. Di Beichen's lips curved into a playful smile as he looked at Di Xiaofeng teasingly. Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen helplessly. Are you that eager for me to find you a sister-in-law? I'm not the only one looking forward to it. The entire family is looking forward to it. Di Beichen chuckled. It's still too soon. Yun Yan hasn't accepted my feelings for long. Aren't you afraid of scaring her? Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. It was true that he liked Bailey Yun Yan. He also knew that with his status, the Bailey family definitely wouldn't object to this marriage. However, he wasn't an impulsive person. He liked Yun Yan, but at the same time, he needed to give her some time together. If he rushed for quick success, he would lose more than he gained. Big brother is right. We have plenty of time anyway. There's no need to rush. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. Do you think I'm the same as you? Wife, when I pursued you, I had to wait for a long time. Di Beichen spread out his hands with an innocent expression. I'm just worried for grandmother. The last time I left, grandmother secretly asked me about this. When she heard that Yun Yan would be here, she asked me to find a way to help you guys. Di Beichen smiled. It's your fault for not revealing anything. Otherwise, grandmother wouldn't be so curious. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng finally understood. He felt even more helpless. I'll tell you when I get back. That's good. Di Beichen finally showed a satisfied expression. While they were talking, Bailey Yunyan quickly rushed over. Why are you here? Her pretty face was filled with indescribable joy. This time in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, it could be said that she had spent the longest time with Di Xiaofeng. In the past, she had always been worried that her status wasn't good enough for Di Xiaofeng, and his family wouldn't agree. But fortunately, this situation hadn't happened yet, so she could quietly breathe a sigh of relief. Yun Yan. Seeing Bailey Yunyan's appearance, Di Xiaofeng stood up with a joyful smile on his handsome face. We're here to say goodbye. Since we're back, we naturally have to make a trip back to the clan. Bailey Yunyan nodded, but a trace of sadness flashed through her eyes. I understand. She was very clear that coming back meant that they had to part. Whether it was Di Xiaofeng or her, they both needed to go back to their families. However, when she was faced with it, she still felt a little sad. Because once they were separated, they didn't know when they would be able to meet again. We'll look for you in a few days, Di Xiaofeng quickly said. Hearing this, a trace of light appeared in Bailey Yunyan's eyes. Really? Chapter 5173. What's more, Hong Zhuang also has matters to attend to at the Bailey family. Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. When you go back, if you have time, can you help me check the genealogy? Bailey Yunyan turned to Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, don't worry, I'll definitely look into it when I go back. Then I'll have to trouble you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Even if she already knew everything in her heart, it would be best if she could confirm it. What's so troublesome about this? Speaking of which, I've always been the one troubling you. If I can do something for you, I'll be the happiest. Bailey Yunyan's eyes shone with sincerity. She was truly grateful towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Oh right, what about Nangong Xiaolong? When will we bring him to see Miss Shi? Di Xiaofeng suddenly thought of this incomparably hateful fellow. Although he had already taught this fellow a lesson last time, he still felt unsatisfied. Of course, the most important thing was to untie the knot in Bailey Shi's heart. Hearing this, a trace of hesitation appeared on Bailey Yunyan's face. That's right, Shi isn't in the family right now. I'm afraid we won't be able to go for a while. Don't worry, the poison I gave Nangong Xiaolong won't take effect quickly. However, it's not possible for him to find someone to cure it. We can go back to the family first and deal with this matter later. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her delicate and elegant face was filled with confidence. Big brother, you can go to the Nangong family later and let them know. As long as Nangong Xiaolong can't cure the poison when he goes back, he'll have to come to us in the end. The Nangong family's power is not small. I'm sure they'll try to find a doctor to cure the poison when they go back. Is there really no problem? Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. This was too difficult. Don't worry, if Hongzhuang says there's no problem, then there naturally won't be a problem. Di Beichen spoke up. Di Xiaofeng also completely believed Bailey Hongzhuang's words. He was very clear on how outstanding Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were. That's good. Bailey Yunyan let out a sigh of relief. I must make him kneel in front of Shi and apologize. If it wasn't for him, Shi wouldn't have become like this. Go back and talk about it. If possible, let Shi go back to the family. It's not good for her to be alone outside. Di Xiaofeng sighed. He couldn't help but sympathize with Bailey Shi when he first met her. Bailey Yunyan nodded. I had the same plan. Actually, I didn't really want to chase Shi out. It was just that no matter how I asked her who the other party was, she wasn't willing to tell me. Of the family's family. Now that everything has been revealed, I'm sure the family's head is worried about Shi. It would be best if we could bring Miss Shi back. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression relaxed. When the time comes, let Nangong Xiaolong go to your family and apologize. Bailey Yunyan's eyes flashed with a strange light. That's right. That guy is so bad. He must be punished. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen didn't stay for long. They left early. Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan were going to separate tomorrow. Tonight, they naturally had to leave some space for themselves. Early the next morning, the Di family and the Lin family embarked on their return journey. Chapter 5174. The Di family. Di Linxian, Xia Wanrong, Di Yujue, Lin Yunqing, and the others had been looking forward to it. After not seeing each other for such a long time, they could not wait to see their own children. Beichen and the others have only just returned, and they've already gone to the Immortal Cloud secret realm. I really miss him. Xia Wanrong's face was filled with emotion and anticipation. She was extremely satisfied with her precious grandson and granddaughter-in-law. They had been wandering outside for so many years, and she only hoped that they could stay at home more often. It would be good if she had the chance to see them more often. Looking at Xia Wanrong's anxious look, Di Linxian could not help but smile. Usually, you're always looking forward to Xiaofeng's return. Of course, I'm looking forward to it too. Xia Wanrong's face was serious. It would be great if that little brat could bring back a granddaughter-in-law sooner. Otherwise, when Beichen has a child and we don't know where he is, that would be too unreasonable. Old woman, you're thinking too much. Di Linxian felt helpless. This woman's thoughts were really complicated. Isn't it because they always have to go out and train? I'm already so old now and I can't bear to see that. I also know that I can't control them if they want to go out. However, if they can give birth to a great-grandson, I can stay at home and take care of my great-grandson. Naturally, I won't miss them. That makes sense. Di Linxuan's face turned serious. When they return, I'll have to urge them. Di Yujue and Lin Yunqing listened to their parents' conversation and a deep smile appeared in their eyes. Although they did not want to rush them, they would not mind if they could have a grandchild sooner. If Xiaofeng sees this, he'll probably have a headache again. Lin Yunqing laughed involuntarily. She knew Xiaofeng's temper the best. Every time this problem was brought up, Xiaofeng would always think of ways to avoid it. Of course, part of the reason was because of Yi. They all hoped that Xiaofeng could be together with Yi. However, the situation was not as good as they thought it would be. She was able to accept this. Young people valued relationships the most. If they couldn't be with the person they liked, it would be extremely difficult for them. It's all right. Leave this matter to father and mother. We don't have to worry about it. You sure are happy to be idle. Lin Yun glanced at Di Yujue, her eyes full of flirtatiousness. Di Yujue sighed inwardly. Even when his wife was glaring at him, she was still so dazzling. Fortunately, after so many years, the enmity between them had finally been resolved. Just as everyone was talking, the sound of footsteps came from not far away. They turned around and saw Di Xiaofeng and the others. When they saw that everyone was safe and sound, they were completely relieved. Di Beichen and the others noticed the figures of Di Yujue and the others from afar. Immediately, a joyful smile appeared on their faces. Grandfather, grandmother, father, mother. You're finally back. Xia Wanrong quickly greeted them and carefully looked at Di Beichen and the others. Are you hurt? Chapter 51-75. As Di Xiaofeng's words fell, Lin Qianqian and others couldn't help but laugh. What he said was really true. Not only Di Xiaofeng, but all of them were lucky to be taken care of by Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Otherwise, with their strength, they would not be able to come back safely this time. However, Xia Wanrong and others were a little confused after hearing this. What do you mean by this? Xia Wanrong was a little puzzled. Beichen's strength has surpassed yours? According to Beichen's previous situation in the family, there should still be some gap between his strength and Di Xiaofeng's. Could it be that his speed of improvement was so fast that he had surpassed Di Xiaofeng in a short time? No cultivation. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. Then I don't understand even more. Xia Wanrong was confused and turned to look at Di Linxian. Di Linxian naturally didn't know what happened, but he didn't speak. He just turned his gaze to Di Xiaofeng. This kid will definitely explain. Beichen's cultivation is indeed not higher than mine, but his combat power doesn't match his cultivation at all. It's simply terrifying. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with deep emotion. Once Di Beichen summoned the skeleton army, ordinary people were no match for him at all. Especially in a group battle, Di Beichen could fight against 100 alone. Now even he couldn't help but envy him. If he also had the dark attribute, it would be really amazing. Yes, second cousin's combat power is too terrifying. Lin Yi nodded. Not only second cousin, but second cousin-in-law's means are also very powerful. This time, the most prominent people in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm are second cousin and second cousin-in-law. Which force doesn't know their name now? As soon as these words came out, Yujue and Lin Yunqing couldn't help but look at each other. This situation was really beyond their expectations. Tell grandmother what exactly is going on? Xia Wanrong looked at Lin Yi with a smile. She really liked this lively and lovely girl. It was a pity that Yujue and Lin Yunqing didn't have a daughter later on. Otherwise, it would be really delightful to see such a happy little girl. Lin Yi took a step forward and held Xia Wanrong's hand. Grandmother, listen to me carefully. This time, we have really broadened our horizons. Alright, then tell me in detail. Yujue looked at the group of disciples behind him, and a deep smile appeared on his handsome face. Welcome back. As Yujue's voice fell, the cultivators all revealed looks of joy. It felt good to be home. At the same time, they also understood that after this experience, their status in the family would also rise. In the future, they might be responsible for more important matters in the family. This was the importance of training and increasing one's strength. It was extremely beneficial to them. Most importantly, they had obtained immortal spirit pills from this trial. This was the most important reward. The other disciples follow the great elder to receive rewards and resources first. You have worked hard these days. Have a good rest first. Yujue smiled and looked at the high-spirited faces in front of him. These young people would become the mainstay of the family in the future. Yes. Thank you, family master. When they heard that they could receive rewards and cultivation resources, the smiles on everyone's faces became more intense. Chapter 5176. Conference Hall. Everyone from the D family and the Lin family gathered here. Mo Yunjue and others went back to their residence to rest first. Originally, Di Beichen planned to let everyone come together. For them, Mo Yunjue and others were their own people, so there was nothing to worry about. However, when Ziren and others still found an excuse to leave. Even if Di Beichen and Lin Yiqian regarded them as their own people, it was still inappropriate to participate at this time. In this regard, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang did not insist. They believed that as time passed, they would no longer be unfamiliar with each other. Xia Wanrong had been listening to Lin Yi's narration along the way. As she listened more, the surprise on her face became stronger. In fact, not only Xia Wanrong, but Di Lin Xian and others were also listening carefully. Even if Di Beichen and others had returned safely now, they also wanted to know how they gained experience during this time. Is everything you said true? Even though Xia Wanrong tried to keep calm, she couldn't help but ask after listening to these thrilling experiences. She even suspected that these little guys deliberately made it up to tease her. Grandmother, what I said is naturally true. Lin Yi looked serious. If you don't believe me, you can ask my sister. There is absolutely no lie. Hearing this, Xia Wanrong's gaze couldn't help but turn to Lin Qianqian. Lin Qianqian also nodded and said, Grandmother, what he said is true. This time, if it weren't for Beichen and Hongzhuang, not only us, but almost all the cultivators who entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm would have been wiped out. Yes, it was really thrilling this time. Lin Taxing sighed. Grandmother, you didn't see how dangerous the situation was at that time. Beichen and Hongzhuang were like gods. If it had been in the past, Lin Taxing would never have used such a word to describe it. But recalling the situation at that time, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's means were indeed like gods, which was unbelievable. He believed that he was not the only one. The other cultivators must have had the same thought at that time. Seeing the situation, Xia Wanrong and the rest looked at each other in dismay. This result was seriously too out of their expectations. I really didn't expect my precious grandson and granddaughter-in-law to be so powerful. Xia Wanrong looked at Di Beichen and Di Beichen with a look of pleasant surprise. In fact, she had always known that Di Beichen would definitely achieve great things in the future. Even if his cultivation was not comparable to that of the younger generation, with the heavenly mandate body, he only needed a certain amount of time and sufficient cultivation resources to grow at an astonishing speed. However, she did not expect that Di Bei Chen's growth would be so fast. In such a short period of time, he had reached this step. Not only Di Bei Chen, but Bailey Hongzhuang also gave her a huge surprise. Di Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other and smiled. Even they themselves could not judge the fighting strength that erupted at that critical moment. However, they were also satisfied with their performance at that time. Di Yujue's eyes were full of splendor. This news really surprised him. Bei Chen, how did you summon the skeleton army? Di Yujue gazed at Di Bei Chen with surprise and joy in his deep, dark eyes. This was undoubtedly the happiest thing for him. Chapter 51-77. The inheritance of the dark attribute had disappeared hundreds of years ago. All these years, he had never seen any cultivator of the dark attribute achieve great results. Di Bei Chen was his son and the future head of the Di family. If he was shackled because of this, it would undoubtedly be a terrible situation. And now, after listening to everything that everyone had said, his previous worries were naturally resolved. Di Yujue was not the only one who was curious. Everyone present was curious about this. Their eyes immediately fell on Di Bei Chen as they wanted to know the result. Di Bei Chen smiled brightly when he sensed everyone's gaze. I've obtained the inheritance of the dark attribute before, so I've already mastered the cultivation method of the dark attribute. This isn't a problem for me. As soon as these words came out, everyone finally understood. You've actually found the inheritance of the dark attribute? Di Linxian's eyes were filled with surprise. All these years, almost all the cultivators of the dark attribute have been searching for the inheritance. I never thought that the inheritance would end up in your hand. Due to the decline of the dark attribute, coupled with the discrimination and oppression they had been suffering all these years, almost all the cultivators of the dark attribute held their breaths, hoping that they would have the chance to change the situation. However, after so many years, no one had found it. Looks like Bei Chen is someone with great luck. Di Linxian chuckled. His dignified face was filled with smiles. He no longer looked stern and was replaced with kindness and friendliness. Di Yujue nodded slightly. When he was in the lower realm, it meant that Di Bei Chen had obtained the inheritance of the dark attribute before his attribute had even awakened. This meant that everything had already paved the way for him. In this situation, to them, Di Bei Chen was someone with great luck. Luck, this kind of inexplicable thing, was a real existence. As long as one had great luck, one's future achievements would definitely not be weak. Lin Yunqing felt a burst of joy in her heart. Bei Chen has been wandering outside for so many years. Not only did he return safely, but he also reached this step. I also believe that he will definitely go far in the future. Perhaps it was because they owed Di Bei Chen all these years, but all the elders in the family were especially good to him. They only hoped that he would have a smooth journey. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Bei Chen with a faint smile. She felt happy for him from the bottom of her heart when she felt the concern from so many family members. Just then, Lin Taxing's voice rang out again. Uncle, actually, I think that, if there is a chance, we should ask Hongzhuang to go to the Holy Light Assembly. Regarding this point, he already had an idea in his heart. What does that mean? Lin Yunqing raised her eyebrows. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivator of the light attribute, so it was natural for her to go to the Holy Light Assembly. However, Lin Taxing naturally did not want to talk about this issue at this time. After this trip to the Immortal Cloud Secret Territory, we feel that Hongzhuang may be more suitable than Xiao Sou to be the Holy Light Assembly's saint, Lin Taxing said with a serious expression. No matter how we look at it, Xiao Sou cannot compare to Hongzhuang. Chapter 51-78. If they weren't 100% sure before, then after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang surpassing Xiao Sou on the Bridge of Light, this thought became even more firm. How long has Bailey Hongzhuang been in contact with the light force? She actually comprehended it faster than Xiao Shou. From the looks of it, as long as she was given more time to improve her comprehension of the light force, she would definitely surpass the other party. I agree too. Di Xiaofeng nodded. The reason why the Jun family was so arrogant before was because they were in cahoots with the Xiao family. The Xiao family is most famous for Xiao Shou, but once Hong Zhuang replaces Xiao Shou's position as the Saint of Light, everything will be different. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited. If they succeeded, they could completely break the alliance between the Xiao family and the Jun family. In fact, this way, the other party wouldn't be able to pose any threat to them. Hearing this, Di Yujue and the others looked at each other. When they knew about Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in the light attribute, this thought had already appeared in their minds. Now that everyone said this, it seemed that their wife's performance in this aspect was really outstanding. Lin Yunqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked, "Hongzhuang, what do you think?" If Bailey Hongzhuang could become the Saint of Light, it would naturally be very beneficial to their family. However, it all depended on Bailey Hongzhuang's own thoughts. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. According to their thoughts, Bailey Hongzhuang should not refuse, because no matter who it was a great thing. However, Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated. Bai Yunjiao and He Shinjuan's experience had left a deep impression on her. If the two of them weren't together, then either one of them would be an extremely extraordinary existence. However, they died of depression because they couldn't be together. Until now, she still didn't understand the situation that Bai Yunjiao was talking about. If I become the Saint of Light, will it have an impact on all of this? I need some time to think about it, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Her tone was calm, but she was deep in thought. Di Beichen naturally knew Bailey Hongzhuang's concerns. When he heard her make such a decision, he was not surprised. Regarding this point, they indeed needed to carefully consider it. Everyone was stunned after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer. Obviously, they couldn't believe what they saw. Second cousin-in-law, it's an honor to become the Saint of Light. With this identity, Lin Yunjiao's eyes. And Lin Yi couldn't help but speak. Lin Yi couldn't help but speak out. She suddenly realized that what she said might not be appropriate, so she said, "Of course, with your ability, no one dares to despise you now. But in this way, Xiao Shou won't have the capital to show off in front of you in the future." Lin Qianqian and others also stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Lin Yi's words were a little anxious, they had to admit that all of this was true. They really couldn't understand the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang refused. Lin Yunqing immediately said after seeing this scene, "Everyone, don't worry. Since Hong Zhuang made such a decision, she naturally has her reasons." Chapter 51-79. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Yujue and Lin Yunqing with an apologetic look on her delicate and elegant face. "I'm sorry, silly girl, what's there to be sorry about?" Lin Yunqing smiled faintly. "This is your own business. Of course, it's up to you to decide. You don't have to care about other people's opinions." "That's right. If you don't like it, then forget it." Xia Wanrong also expressed her concern. "In my opinion, there's nothing great about being the Holy Maiden of Light. If you don't want it, then don't." Seeing this, Lin Taxing and the others looked at each other. Although they did not understand why Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated, they understood after calming down that with her temperament, she naturally had her reasons for making such a decision. Bailey Hongzhuang felt apologetic, but she was also helpless in this situation. Di Beichen patted Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and said to the puzzled crowd, "Hongzhuang's hesitation has something to do with me." With the sound of Di Beichen's voice falling, everyone was slightly surprised, but they immediately understood. One of them was of the dark attribute, while the other was of the light attribute. Even if they were together now, it would cause criticism. If Bailey Hongzhuang became the Holy Maiden of Light, then the situation would only be more complicated. "I see." Lin Qianqian suddenly understood. This is indeed a little complicated. We have to think about it carefully. Di Yujue and the others, who were also puzzled at first, looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with even more affection after understanding this point. Even though they had always known that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had a very good relationship, this kind of behavior touched them even more. If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely agree without hesitation when faced with such an outstanding situation. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's first thought was Di Beichen. Lin Yunqing's gaze became increasingly gentle. From the moment she had met Bailey Hongzhuang, she knew that she was a good girl. The current situation proved that she had deep feelings for Beichen. If she let down such a good girl, she would not be able to forgive herself. The two of you have completely opposite natures. Once Hongzhuang becomes the saintess of the light, she will definitely think of ways to make an issue out of this matter. In addition, the Shao clan has already decided that the Holy Maiden of Light is in their clan. If we want to overthrow them, they will definitely obstruct us. This matter indeed needs to be considered at length. Di Linxuan's face sank slightly. Actually, he already knew that it would be difficult to complete this task. However, he realized that the situation was much more complicated than he had imagined after hearing what Di Linxian had said. He did need to put in more effort. Anyway, there's no need to rush this matter, Di Yujue said slowly. Do you have any understanding of this matter this time? Do you know when Xiao So will inherit the position of Saint of Light? We don't know. Di Xiaofeng replied. Xiao So has never mentioned this in front of anyone. According to our judgment, I'm afraid that she won't be able to become the real Saintess of Light. However, we don't know the exact reason. Xiao Wanrong was surprised. How can you tell? Previously, someone brought up this topic to ask Xiao So, but she looked very troubled. Di Xiaofeng's expression was serious. He had seen this scene clearly at that time. Hearing this, Di Linxian and Xiao Wanrong looked at each other, and some thoughts suddenly appeared in their mind. Chapter 5180. Could it be that Xiao Se Wu had never been able to become the true Saint of Light because the position of the Saint of Light was actually reserved for Bailey Hongzhuang? When this thought appeared in Di Linxian and Di Zhouyaoyao's minds, they found it hard to believe. After all, for so many years, everyone had recognized Xiao Sou as the Saint of Light and no one had ever questioned it. And now the opportunity seemed to be right in front of them. Let's not talk about this for now. We'll talk about it in detail after we've found out more about the situation. Di Yujue's voice rang out and everyone stopped talking about it. Then, they talked about what had happened during this period of time. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not pay too much attention to it because she had put all her attention on this matter. In the room, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who had a complicated expression and could not help but ask, "Wife, are you still thinking about that question?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Beichen, actually, I don't understand how Master and the others could be forced into such a situation with their strength. It's just too shocking. Although she did not know by Yunjiao's true cultivation base, she could roughly guess it. At least, based on the cultivators she had met so far, there was probably no one who could surpass their master's strength. What you've said is also something that I don't understand. Di Zhouyaoyao's deep eyes were covered with a trace of seriousness. I always feel that Master and the others have many things that they haven't told us and we'll have to figure it out ourselves. I don't think the Holy Assembly's requirements are that strict. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen with a serious expression on her delicate face. Xiao So has been in the Holy Assembly all these years, and she knows the situation very well. It's fine if she doesn't know that you're of the dark attribute, but she clearly knows that you're of the dark attribute and yet she still insists on being with you. That proves it. Even when Xiao So later said that cultivators of the light and dark attributes would not have a good ending if they were to combine, Bailey Hongzhuang did not take it to heart. That was because Xiao So knew that it was impossible for her to obtain it, so she made up an excuse. That's right. Di Beichen naturally understood. He pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand and stroked her brows with his slender fingers, smoothing her furrowed brows. Wife, perhaps the situation isn't as complicated as it is. We're not clear about it yet, but we've already sent someone to gather information from the Holy Assembly. Don't think too much to think about this matter. Leave it to me. The warm and magnetic voice seemed to have a magical power, soothing the worries in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. A faint smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's fair, jade-like face. She nodded gently and stared at the perfect, godlike face in front of her. Her heart suddenly calmed down. That's right, no matter what, I'll always have Di Beichen by my side. After the disciples went back to rest, Di Yujue called the elders over to discuss the matter in the discussion hall. The situation this time was clearly better than they had imagined. Therefore, the atmosphere in the meeting hall was very harmonious and filled with joy. Chapter 5181. Family Head. The young master's performance this time was too outstanding. Di Chiyuan's face was full of smiles. I also heard the news from the other family elders. Everyone is full of praise for our young master's ability. Previously, when he was in Waterchi City, he met several family elders. When they talked about the situation in the Immortal Cloud secret realm, there were even people who came to thank him on behalf of the family disciples. Previously, many people snorted when they heard that our young master had returned. They thought that our young master had been wandering outside all these years and that his strength was not enough to take up the position of young master. However, after this incident, I believe that no one will criticize him anymore. The second elder's face was also full of joy. When he thought of the mocking looks of those people before, he felt a wave of displeasure. However, after this incident, they were finally able to hold their heads high. The young master and young master's wife are really a match made in heaven. This time, their strength is really extraordinary. Di Hengyun chuckled. I think that the young master is the hope of our family. He is a gift from heaven to our Di family. Di Yujue smiled as he listened to everyone's praises. His heart was also full of pride. This was his son. No matter how many people doubted his ability, in the end, he would shut them all up with facts. Family Head. This time, only Jun Lingxuan returned from the Jun family. The other cultivators have all died in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. This time, the Jun family must have suffered a heavy blow. They won't be able to be arrogant in the short term. Di Chiyuan's eyes were full of pride and satisfaction. The Jun family had been their old enemy all these years. They always thought of ways to cause trouble for them. Now that he saw the Jun family in such a state, he was naturally very happy. That's right. The Jun family should have received this retribution long ago. Who told them to always think of ways to cause trouble for us all these years? Di Yunhe's eyes were full of disgust. Thinking back to what had happened to Medicine Master Qin, if it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, they would have become a joke in the eyes of everyone. Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. This is the retribution they deserve. Di Yujue's eyes darkened. He was going to uproot the Jun family sooner or later. According to his investigation, it was highly likely that the Jun family was behind Di Beichen's assassination. He could ignore other matters, but this matter was absolutely intolerable. This damned guy actually dared to extend his tentacles towards his own child. If it wasn't for Di Beichen's luck, he would never have been able to see him again in this lifetime. Although the Jun family has a lot of young disciples, those who went in this time are all extremely outstanding. Even Jun Zitao has fallen. This time, the Jun family has really suffered a great loss. It will take some time for them to nurture other young disciples. It will be very difficult for them to steal the limelight again. Di Yujue nodded slightly and did not elaborate further on this issue. Although the loss of the younger generation wasn't small, it wasn't enough to hurt the entire Jun family even though it was painful. However, they had all the time in the world. He would tear the Jun family apart bit by bit. Not only that, The immortal spirit herbs that the young master obtained this time will be of great use to our family. Chapter 5182. When the rest of the elders heard this, they were all stunned. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Eighth Elder, are you talking about the immortal spiritual herb? Di-Hing-yun nodded slightly. That's right, the immortal spiritual herb. This treasure is extremely rare. Usually, it's priceless. I didn't expect the young master to have such a great harvest in the immortal cloud's secret realm. It's really a surprise. After hearing Di-Hing-yun's affirmative answer, a commotion broke out in the meeting hall. From what I know, it's extremely difficult to refine the immortal spiritual herb into an immortal spiritual pill, right? A trace of worry appeared in Second Elder's eyes. If we want to hire someone from the Alchemist Guild, we'll have to pay a hefty price. With the D family's reputation, it wasn't difficult to hire someone from the Alchemist Guild. However, the loss of a treasure like the immortal spiritual herb was heartbreaking. If they wanted to hire someone to refine it, they'd have to pay a hefty price. Hearing Second Elder's worry, Di-Yun-He couldn't help but smile. Second Elder, don't worry. This matter has been resolved. Second Elder was slightly stunned. How was this matter resolved? Our young master's wife has successfully refined the immortal spiritual pill. From what I know, her success rate is extremely high. Even though Di-Yun-He's face was calm, he was shocked when he first heard this news. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in the alchemy competition had already proven her ability. He didn't expect that after not seeing her for a while, Bailey Hongzhuang could even refine the immortal spiritual pill. This talent was truly shocking. Following Di-Yun-He's words, the entire meeting hall fell silent for a moment. Then, there was an explosion of enthusiastic exclamations. Our young master's wife can actually refine the immortal spiritual pill. Her alchemy skills are truly extraordinary. This is great. With our young master's wife, we won't have to worry about this matter anymore. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance had given them too many surprises. Especially after hearing about Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, they were even more shocked. Even if they had never had any objections to the family's decision, when they learned that the head of the family had rejected the marriage with the Xiao family for Bailey Hongzhuang, and even lost a helper, their hearts were still full of complaints. After all, losing the Xiao family and giving the Jun family an additional helper. This was a great loss for them. But now, after understanding all of this, their previous thoughts began to change. Their young master's wife's young master's abilities. Both the young master and young madam are first-rate geniuses. Our family will definitely prosper in the future. Di Chiyuan's face was full of pride. Thinking back to the time when they returned from Chishui City, they really had limitless glory. Di Yujue quietly looked at the elders present, feeling their joy and approval. He was also very happy in his heart. This was undoubtedly the situation he wanted to see the most. Chapter 5183. The discussion in the meeting hall went very smoothly. Everyone was sharing their joy. Seeing that the younger generation was able to obtain such a harvest and win such glory for the family, as the elders, they felt incomparably happy. I didn't expect the young master to be of the dark attribute. But now it seems that the dark attribute is very strong. The second young master sighed. Compared to the immortal herbs, this news shocked him more. Although the attribute didn't have much to do with a person, it was hard to associate the young master with the dark attribute from his appearance. The dark attribute isn't a big deal. As long as you are strong, what does it matter what attribute you have? The third elder said calmly. Looking at the third elder's calm face, Di-Hing-yun couldn't help but look at Di-Yun-He and whisper, "Didn't the third elder look down on the dark attribute?" That was before. Di-Yun-He chuckled. Ever since he found out that the young master is of the dark attribute, the third elder's attitude changed. It's as if he wasn't the one who looked down on the dark attribute. Whatever, let's not expose him now. Di Hingyun tried to hold back his laughter. He clearly remembered the third elder's expression when he talked about the dark attribute. The speed of his change was really admirable. Not only Di Hingyun and Di Yunhee, but all the elders knew the third elder's temper very well. Therefore, they all thought it was very funny. After discussing the arrangements for the disciples in detail, they dispersed. Inside the room, Lin Yunqing looked at Di Yujue, who was in a very good mood, and couldn't help but ask, "Are you still thinking about Beichen and the others?" She noticed that Di Yujue had been thinking about something since he came back, but the corners of his lips were always curled up. Di Yujue nodded slightly. "Yunqing, Beichen has really satisfied me. Do you know that Beichen has built up a very high reputation among the disciples of the clan? Earlier, when the first elder and I were strolling outside, we heard many of the younger generation talking about Beichen. It's different from before. Now there is only admiration and respect." Hearing this, Lin Yunqing's face also bloomed into a smile. She suddenly said, "You're going to understand the thoughts of the clan's disciples, right?" "That's right." Di Yujue admitted frankly, "Previously, I was a little worried that it would be difficult for Beichen to gain everyone's trust since he had just returned. I also wanted to know if everyone's thoughts would change after this incident. Now, it seems that the situation is better than I thought." "I was worried about this too." Lin Yunqing sighed. She was naturally overjoyed when Beichen returned. But at the same time, she was worried that Beichen would be under too much pressure. After all, there had been quite a big gap in strength over the years. Thinking back to when Beichen and the others had almost no rest and were in seclusion all day long, she also felt extremely distressed. He felt that if it weren't for the pressure, Beichen wouldn't have fought so hard without any time to rest. However, right now, she was more proud of her son. He was so outstanding. Now, we don't have to worry anymore. Beichen and Hong Zhuang are both smart children and very capable. Chapter 5184. Compared to the joyous atmosphere in the Di family, the atmosphere in the Jun family was the complete opposite. After Jun Xianxiao brought Jun Lingxuan back to the Jun family, everyone in the Jun family found out that only one of the 10 cultivators was left. Everyone's mood fell to the bottom, and the entire Jun family was shrouded in a layer of haze. "Lingxuan, were you ambushed by the Di family?" Jun Hongqing, the head of the Jun family, stared at Jun Lingxuan with a solemn and repressed expression. His slightly deep voice carried a strong sense of oppression, causing everyone present to hold their breaths for fear of angering him. Jun Lingxuan lowered his head. If they had really been ambushed by Di Beichen and the others, it would have been fine. However, this was not the case this time. "This time, we encountered many dangers in the Divine Cloud's secret realm, and all of them died due to accidents." Following Jun Lingxuan's words, the head of the family and the elders in the meeting hall could not help but be stunned. They were almost certain that all of this was the doing of the Di family, and were thinking about how to take revenge on the Di family. However, they were now told that all of them had died due to accidents? This was even more unacceptable than dying at the hands of the Di family's cultivators. What accident could have caused you to suffer such heavy losses? Jun Hongqing frowned. This situation was also beyond his expectations. However, this calmed his anger down a little. Head of the family, the situation in the Divine Cloud's secret realm this time was different from the past. Not only us, but many other forces also suffered heavy losses. However, Jun Shitao died at the hands of Di Beichen. Jun Lingxuan's face was filled with intense hatred at the mention of Jun Shitao's death. If Xiao Sou did not have an escape talisman with her, I would have died there as well. Unfortunately, the escape talisman can only take 2 people away. I could not save Shitao. The boy from the Di family? Jun Hongqing raised his eyebrows. His gaze was gloomy and complicated, and there was even a trace of suspicion. He just returned to the Di family not long ago, and his strength is already so strong that even you are no match for him? That's right. That Di Baichen is only from the lower realm. He's not strong enough. Everyone looked at each other. From the beginning to the end, they had never taken Di Baichen seriously. Speaking of which, this matter is rather strange. Jun Lingxuan sighed. That Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. They don't look like people from the lower realm at all. These guys are just pretending to be weak. I think this might be a ploy by the Di family to trick us. Now, he was more and more certain that this was a trap deliberately designed by Di Baichen and the others. On the surface, they looked as if they were no match for him at all, waiting for him to take the bait. Tell me the details of the situation, Jun Hongqing said slowly. Based on what they had learned so far, the more they listened, the more confused they became. Jun Lingxuan did not hide anything. He immediately told them about the various situations he had encountered in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. Initially, everyone in the conference hall only had anger in their hearts. However, after listening to all of this, everyone's expressions turned solemn. Great Elder, what do you think? Jun Hongqing looked at Jun Xianshao and asked. Jun Xianshao stepped forward and said, In my opinion, Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang are not simple. We can no longer ignore them. Chapter 5185. Every time he thought of the previous situation, Jun Xianshao couldn't help but feel depressed. If they hadn't fallen into the Di family's trap back then, as long as they didn't make that bet, the Jun family would still have a lot of spots. If there were more cultivators, at least the situation wouldn't be so miserable this time. That kid from the Di family is strange. We have to send someone to find out more about him and find out his real trump card, said the second elder. There was a trace of regret on his face. We should have thought of this before. If this kid wasn't strange, Di Yujue wouldn't have recognized him as the young master of the Di family. Everyone couldn't help but sigh. Previously, almost all of them thought that Di Yujue insisted on this decision because he felt guilty about Di Baichen. Who would have thought that this wasn't the case at all? It was because Di Baichen had the strength to do so. Family head, we have to ask the Di family to pass on some important information. If we could have known this earlier, we wouldn't have ended up in this situation now. The third elder frowned, and a malicious light flashed in his eyes. Their original plan had always been very good. If it weren't for the lack of accurate information later, they wouldn't have ended up in this situation now. Hearing this, Jun Hongqing narrowed his eyes. Ever since Di Yujue was discovered, I'm afraid that Di Kaiyuan has been on guard and has been looking for spies in the family. It won't be easy to pass on information under his watchful eyes. That's right. I'm afraid it's not convenient for us to act now. If we're discovered, it'll be really bad. Jun Xuanxiao's expression was solemn. We have to think about this matter at length. That's right. It took us a lot of time to set up this plan. Everything was close to completion, but we didn't expect to fail because of Di Baichen's appearance. The third elder sighed. They had seen the light of dawn before. Who would have thought that in the end it would be all for naught? We weren't decisive enough back then. If Di Baichen had really died, then there wouldn't be so much trouble now. What a pity, what a pity! Jun Lingxuan listened to the sighs of the group of elders, and a deep sense of helplessness appeared on his face, followed by a fierce expression. No matter what, I must avenge Shi Tao. I want Di Baichen and the others to be buried with Shi Tao. That's right. They must pay with their lives. Jun Hongqing's eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty killing intent. Shi Tao was his most beloved son. Now that he had died in the hands of these damned bastards, how could he not be angry? Patriarch, don't worry. I will personally kill Di Baichen to avenge Shi Tao. Patriarch, don't worry. I will personally kill Di Baichen to avenge Shi Tao. His ink-black eyes flashed with anger and hatred. Jun Lingxuan secretly swore that he would definitely avenge her. You should cultivate well. It's okay to suffer a loss this time. Next time, you must find a way to get back at them. Jun Xianshao looked at Jun Hongqing and said, Patriarch, in addition to this matter, there is now an extremely troublesome problem. What is it? Junhong Cheng's face turned solemn. The news he had heard so far was already very bad. How could there be another troublesome problem? Chapter 5186. The Xiao Family. As Xiao Sou and the others returned to the Xiao family, although they did not suffer many casualties, their mood was equally gloomy. When Xiao Yanlong found out that Jun Lingxuan was the only one who returned alive from the Jun family, he sighed. Father, the reason why the Jun family suffered such heavy casualties this time is because they sent too few cultivators on this trip. That's why they ended up in such a situation. Xiao Sou looked at Xiao Yanlong, whose expression was slightly gloomy, and could not help but speak up for Jun Lingxuan. Of course I know about this reason, but it's definitely not the only reason. With Xiao Yanlong's age and experience, he naturally had a deep understanding of this situation. Although there were some irresistible factors, if he was strong enough, he would definitely have a way to do it better. Hearing this, Xiao Sou paused for a moment and swallowed the excuse she was about to give. Comparing Jun Lingxuan and Di Beichen's performance this time, you should be very clear in your heart, right? Xiao Yanlong glanced at Xiao Sou indifferently, his serious and calm face revealing a bit of helplessness and lamentation. Father, you can't say it like that. Xiao Sudong could not help but speak up. Previously, it was Di Beichen who let sister down. No matter what, it's impossible to achieve a marriage alliance. Even if it's not a marriage alliance, the friendship between the two sides still exists. Xiao Yanlong's brows revealed a trace of regret. What's more, because of this, the Di family feels guilty towards us. It's better for us. However, now that we're completely hostile, there's no point in saying these words. Regarding this matter, Xiao Yanlong was undoubtedly the most helpless. All this time, the Xiao family and the Di family's relationship had been extremely close. He never thought that he would cut off all ties with the Di family in his hands. Not only did they cut off ties, but they also became enemies. One had to know that when Di Beichen rejected the marriage, he was indeed extremely unhappy. However, Di Yujue's attitude had always been very good, and he even thought of ways to compensate them. If they entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm this time, they would still be family friends. Needless to say, Xiao Sou and the others would definitely gain more. Following Xiao Yanlong's words, Xiao Sudong and Xiao Sou both sank into silence. That was indeed true. Father, this matter is quite strange. Di Beichen's luck is truly extraordinary. Chen Feng from the Great Devil Sect and Murong Jing from the Murong clan actually got the chance to comprehend the Primal Chaos Sacred Tablet because of their good relationship. This is simply unbelievable. A deep sigh appeared on Xiao Sudong's face. Until now, he still found it hard to believe that all of this was actually true. This kind of luck, wasn't it a little too good? What did you say? Xiao Yanlong's expression abruptly changed as dense shock surfaced on his face. Primal Chaos Sacred Tablet? That's right. Xiao Sudong nodded. However, elder sister's luck is also very good. She got the chance to comprehend the Radiant Sacred Tablet. Unfortunately, in the end, she still couldn't defeat Bailey Hongzhuang and lost the chance to obtain the inheritance. What exactly is going on? The sigh on Xiao Yanlong's face immediately disappeared and was replaced by a solemn and serious expression. Tell me about this matter in detail. Chapter 5187. Originally, Xiao Yanlong did not care too much about this trip to the Immortal Cloud secret realm. He lamented that he had made a wrong decision back then because the Jun family had suffered too heavy a loss this time. However, when he heard that Xiao Sou's understanding of the light attribute was not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang's, he could no longer remain calm. He did not care about anything else. Even if he had lost a good helper, as long as the Xiao family's foundation did not change, the other things would only have some impact. However, if the Xiao family's foundation was affected, it would be a different story. So, Your understanding of the light attribute is not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang's? Xiao Yanlong looked at Xiao Sou in disbelief. In his opinion, this was simply impossible. Hearing Xiao Yanlong's question, Xiao Sou's expression turned ugly. This was undoubtedly something that she did not want to admit the most. Until now, she still couldn't figure out what was going on. According to her master, her talent in the light attribute was not something that ordinary cultivators could compare to. It could be said that she was a genius that had never appeared in so many years. However, why did everything seem so wrong when compared to Bailey Hongzhuang? Father, Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in the light attribute seems to be very strong. Xiao Sou frowned. Even if she did not want to admit it, she still had to tell the truth in front of Xiao Yanlong. Following Xiao Sou's words, Xiao Yanlong's expression suddenly stiffened. It's actually true. Father, I think that Bailey Hongzhuang might be a big threat to elder sister. Xiao Sudong also became serious. You don't know this, but when we returned, many cultivators felt that Bailey Hongzhuang might be more suitable than elder sister to be the saint of light. I think that once this news spreads, the situation will be extremely disadvantageous for elder sister. We must eliminate this problem as soon as possible. Many people are saying that. Every time Xiao Sudong said a word, Xiao Yanlong's heart sank. This was undoubtedly the situation that he did not want to see the most. Yes. Xiao Sudong glanced at Xiao Sou and continued, I think it's better for Big Sister to ascend to the position of the Holy Maiden as soon as possible in order to avoid unnecessary trouble. Xiao Sou nodded as well. Her delicate face was filled with anxiety and nervousness. Father, quickly help me think of a way. No matter what, I can't let Bailey Hongzhuang take away this position. This was the foundation that she had always been proud of. If she really lost the position of the Holy Maiden, she would definitely become a joke in the eyes of everyone in the future. No matter what, this was something she absolutely could not accept. So don't panic. Tell me in detail what you have perceived. Then we will go to your master and discuss whether there is a way to help you ascend to the position of the Holy Maiden of Light. Xiao Yanlong calmed down. In the past, you were only one step away from becoming the Saint of Light. Now that you've comprehended the Holy Light Tablet, you might already be qualified. As soon as these words were spoken, Xiao Sou's eyes also lit up, and a strong sense of excitement appeared in her eyes. That's right. After I've comprehended the Holy Light Tablet, I realized that I've improved a lot. Maybe I really can now. Chapter 5188. So, don't be anxious. Xiao Yanlong slowly said. Your master has been in closed-door cultivation for the past few days and hasn't come out yet. Otherwise, he would have come to see you long ago. Hearing this, Xiao Sou was stunned for a moment before she understood. Indeed, her master has always been very concerned about her. Now that they haven't seen each other for such a long time, he would have come to see her long ago. Father, do you know when master will come out of closed-door cultivation? Xiao Sou was anxious. It would have been fine if he hadn't mentioned this before, but now that he mentioned it, she couldn't wait to become the true Holy Maiden of Light. In the past, no matter where she went, she would always be the center of attention. However, this time, her limelight had been completely stolen by Bailey Hongzhuang, and she had become a foil. This time, there were many people who had entered the Immortal Cloud secret realm. One person would spread 10, and 10 would spread to 100. It wouldn't take long for this news to spread completely. When she thought of this, she couldn't accept it. Therefore, she must make these people shut up before this news spread completely. I don't know, but I'll send someone to inform your master in a moment. As soon as he comes out of closed-door cultivation, we'll go find him immediately. Xiao Sou nodded slightly, feeling relieved. So, you don't need to be too anxious. It's not that easy to become the Holy Maiden of Light. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in the light attribute is very good, it doesn't mean that she will succeed. We've seen how much effort you've put in over the years. Xiao Yanlong looked at Xiao Sou dotingly, his affection overflowing from his words. Seeing this, Xiao Sou's face showed a trace of a smile, feeling relieved. After Nangong Yuqing and the others returned to the family, they immediately found a doctor to treat Nangong Xiaolong. Although Nangong Xiaolong and Nangong Yuqing were not blood-related brothers, they were very close. As the son of the Nangong family's third elder, Nangong Xiaolong's position in the family was not low. However, this time, his injuries were extremely serious. When the third elder heard that his son's family jewels had been crippled, his face became extremely ugly. "Who is it?" the third elder shouted angrily. "Who is so despicable to do such a thing to my son?" "Third elder, let's get a doctor to treat Xiaolong first." The head of the Nangong family, Nangong Zhengkuan, also had an ashen face. However, when he saw the doctor behind him, he still reminded him. Hearing this, third elder stepped aside and looked at the family physician. "You must find a way to cure my son." "Third elder, I will do my best." After the doctor went in for treatment, third elder asked again, "Young master, who did this to my son? This method is simply an insult." As a cultivator, injuries were unavoidable. Even if Nangong Xiaolong had lost an arm or a leg, he would still be able to remain calm. However, in this situation, he was clearly insulting his dignity. Yuqing explained this matter clearly. "Which power is it that dares to go overboard?" Nangong Zhengkuan's expression was gloomy. Dealing with their family members like this was no different from slapping their faces. "It was made by Lin Qianqian," Nangong Yuqing replied. Chapter 5189. Lin Qianqian. Third elder's face was filled with anger. "I must kill this bastard to avenge Xiaolong. We have no enmity with the Lin family, so why would Lin Qianqian do such a thing?" Nangong Zhengkuan couldn't understand. Could it be that Xiaolong had some sort of relationship with Lin Qianqian? As a woman, it was impossible for her to do such a thing to a man without a reason. Not only Nangong Zhengkuan, but all the elders and youths present had the same thought. Perhaps Nangong Xiaolong had let Lin Qianqian down, so she did such a thing out of anger. Xiaolong did let down a girl, but that girl wasn't Lin Qianqian, but Bailey Shi of the Bailey family. Nangong Yuqing had no choice but to tell the whole story in detail. The Bailey family is just a small family. Even if Xiaolong married a girl from such a small family, she would only be a concubine. Lin Qianqian actually harmed my son in order to avenge Bailey Shi? After hearing this, third elder's anger didn't subside at all. On the contrary, it burned even more fiercely. If they had bullied Lin Qianqian and encountered such a situation, they could only blame it on their bad luck. However, she was just a girl from a small family, so what was the big deal about bullying her? Nangong Xiaolong was willing to spend some time with her, so it was already a blessing for him. Nangong Yuqing nodded slightly. The Bailey family's Bailey Yunyan seems to be Di Xiaofeng's woman. When they were in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, the Di family had been protecting them. Lin Qianqian did this to help Bailey Yunyan vent her anger. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang also poisoned Xiaolong. "What did you say?" The third elder was stunned once again, and his eyes widened. "Isn't it enough that you've harmed my son to this extent? You even poisoned him?" "That's right." Nangong Hengyang, who was standing behind Nangong Yuqing, nodded. "They did this to make Xiaolong apologize to Bailey Shi." "Yuqing, what were you doing when the Di family and the Lin family bullied Xiaolong?" Nangong Zhengkuan's face was ashen. His family's strength was no weaker than the Di family's. Even if the Di family and the Lin family joined forces, they wouldn't watch Xiaolong be bullied without doing anything. "Father, the situation at that time was very complicated. Everything was in the hands of the Di family. Moreover, we didn't expect Lin Qianqian to attack us so suddenly. By the time we reacted, it was already too late. Not only that, the Great Devil Sect and the Murong family were their helpers at that time. We were really powerless." Nangong Hengyang followed up. This time around, they were indeed somewhat aggrieved in the immortal cloud's secret realm. If their clan leader knew the truth, he would surely punish them severely. Hence, they might as well find an excuse to save their face. Sure enough, Nangong Zhenkuan and all the elders present understood after hearing this. If the other party had so many helpers, then it was reasonable for Nangong Yuqing and the others to be helpless. If they had attacked at that time, perhaps they wouldn't have been able to return safely. Nangong Yuqing glanced at Nangong Hengyang but didn't explain anything. Chapter 5190. Actually, Xiaolong shouldn't have taken the initiative to bring up this matter. Nangong Hengyang sighed. In his opinion, this was an undeserved disaster. If Nangong Xiaolong hadn't taken the initiative to bring up this matter, the other party wouldn't have shifted their attention to him. Naturally, there wouldn't be so many problems. What do you mean by that? Third Elder frowned. Why does he feel like something is wrong? Third Elder, at that time, Xiaolong was too pleased with himself to speak of this matter. It is said that Bai Li Shi never mentioned Xiaolong's name or identity, so the Bai Li clan simply did not know who did it. It wasn't just Nangong Hengyang, but all the disciples present couldn't help but sigh. This matter was really Nangong Xiaolong's bad luck. If he hadn't brought up this matter, he wouldn't have ended up in this situation. As a man, if his family jewels were crippled, wouldn't he become a joke? You're saying that Xiaolong brought up this matter himself? Second Elder looked at Third Elder with a complicated expression. If all of this was brought up by Nangong Xiaolong, then he was really looking for trouble. Third Elder obviously didn't expect this situation and was so depressed that he wanted to spit out a mouthful of blood. Noticing the Third Elder's flushed face, the First Elder hurriedly said, "No matter what, Lin Qianqian and the others have gone too far." That's right, a girl from the Bailey family. Could it be that they really expected Xiaolong to marry her? Isn't that just a dream? Everyone knew that Nangong Xiaolong was the only son of Third Elder. Although his status in the Nangong family couldn't be compared to Nangong Yuqing and the others, it was still not something the other disciples could compare to. If he wanted to marry, he would naturally marry a young miss from a large family. If he couldn't marry the daughter of the patriarch, then he would marry a young miss from the closest branch. Bai Li Shi's status was simply not worthy of her. With this excuse, Third Elder's complexion improved a little. That's right, this matter wasn't our Xiaolong's fault. At that time, Bai Li Shi must have wanted to climb up the social ladder and seduce Xiaolong. A girl took the initiative to throw herself at him, so isn't Xiaolong's reaction normal? Just as everyone was discussing, the doctor finally walked out of the room. Seeing the doctor appear, the Third Elder immediately went up and asked, "Doctor, can my son be saved?" The doctor shook his head helplessly. "Third Elder, this injury is too serious. I can only guarantee that Xiaolong's life is not in danger. As for the rest, forgive me for not being able to do anything." As soon as these words were spoken, the Third Elder's face immediately turned deathly pale. It was as if he had lost his soul, and he almost collapsed. "Third Elder!" The First Elder hurriedly supported him. "Don't fall." The Third Elder's face flushed red, his eyes burning with rage. "I must kill these bastards." He only had one son, Nangong Xiaolong. Although he was already married, he did not have any grandchildren. Now that Nangong Xiaolong was crippled just like that, it meant that their bloodline was over. How could he bear such consequences? Nangong Xiaolong fainted immediately after hearing this. He had always hoped that there would be hope after he came back. Now, not only was there no hope, but he was also in complete despair. Chapter 5191. Nangong Zhenkuan turned to the doctor. "So you're saying that the poison in Xiaolong's body has been cured?" Hearing this, the doctor paused for a moment before a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. "How come I didn't know that Xiaolong was poisoned?" Seeing this, everyone present couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. They clearly heard Nangong Yuqing say that Xiaolong had been poisoned, so why didn't the doctor detect anything? Nangong Yuqing was also surprised. Doctor, please examine him carefully. I saw Xiaolong being poisoned with my own eyes. I just examined him and didn't see any signs of poisoning. The doctor frowned. I'll go examine him again. You have to examine him carefully. Xiaolong is already like this, so we can't let his life be in danger. Third elder nervously looked at the doctor, his eyes filled with hope and an indescribable nervousness. Nangong Xiaolong's current situation already made him extremely distressed. If he were to lose his life because of this, then he would really be sending off his own son. This was something he absolutely couldn't accept. Third elder, I'll go in and examine him carefully. Don't worry. As soon as his voice fell, the doctor hurriedly went in and examined Xiaolong again. This Bailey Hongzhuang is very strange. Her medical skills are extremely high, so perhaps her poison is also very difficult to detect. Nangong Hengyang couldn't help but speak up. Ever since this incident, his opinion of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had completely changed. These two were masters of pretending to be pigs to eat tigers. On the surface, they didn't seem to have any offensive power, so they were often looked down upon. But if they were really looked down upon, then they would be in for a bad time. Thinking back to how everyone had ridiculed them before, they had remained calm and didn't even bother to refute. It really made people feel helpless. Nangong Yuqing nodded slightly before looking at Nangong Zhenkuan. Father, Bailey Hongzhuang's methods are very strange. This time, she dared to let us come back first. I'm afraid that she is certain that our family's doctors are unable to cure Xiaolong. Otherwise, she would not let go of this opportunity. He knew very well how much Bailey Hongzhuang valued the Bailey family. Di Xiaofeng was very likely to become a couple with Bailey Hongzhuang in the future, so Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely not let them go. Therefore, there was no doubt that this poison existed. As for whether they could discover it or not, it would depend on their methods. Nangong Zhenkuan naturally understood the meaning behind Nangong Yuqing's words, and his expression suddenly became dignified. I didn't expect the young master of the Di family to be so capable. We've underestimated him. As he spoke, Nangong Zhenkuan continued, Yuqing, I heard that Xiao Sou is very close to Jun Lingxuan from the Jun family. Is this true? Hearing Nangong Zhenkuan's question, Nangong Yuqing was stunned for a moment before his expression became complicated. Of course. Ever since we entered the immortal cloud realm, I've seen Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan together. Nangong Hengyang saw that Nangong Yuqing didn't answer, so he took the initiative to answer. Nangong Zhenkuan naturally knew about Nangong Yuqing's feelings towards Xiao Sou, so he immediately looked at Nangong Hengyang. Are they really that close? Family head, what I said is the truth. If you don't believe me, ask the other children. We all saw it clearly. Chapter 5192. Nangong Zhenkuan understood the situation when he saw the reactions of the disciples. Even if Nangong Yuqing didn't say anything, he could guess that it wasn't the Di family who came looking for trouble. Instead, it was Nangong Yuqing who provoked them for Xiao Sou. Nangong Zhenkuan understood his son's personality very well. Needless to say, Nangong Yuqing was hard-working in cultivation. The only troublesome thing about his son was his infatuation. For so many years, Nangong Yuqing had placed all his attention on Xiao Sou. Nangong Zhenkuan didn't stop him because it would be of great help to his family if he could marry the saint. But now that Xiao Sou was together with Jun Lingxuan and the Di family was much stronger than before, there was no need for them to get involved in this mess. Yuqing, once you return, you should focus on your work. You don't have to worry about Xiao Sou anymore. Although Nangong Yuqing had already guessed that Nangong Zhenkuan would say this, he still couldn't help but feel sad when he heard it. He knew that Xiao Sou didn't have him in her heart. First it was Di Beichen, then it was Jun Lingxuan. He had pursued Xiao Sou for so many years, but she had never gotten close to him. However, he truly liked Xiao Sou, so it was hard for him to give up. Seeing that Nangong Yuqing didn't answer, Nangong Zhenkuan's gaze became more serious. Do you know? Yes, father. Nangong Yuching nodded, but his thoughts were complicated. Not long after, the doctor came out of the room with a complicated and puzzled expression. Xiaolong's situation is indeed strange. If the young master hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have noticed it. However, after a careful examination, I felt that there was something wrong with Xiaolong's body. After testing it with a silver needle, I found that he was poisoned. Is there a way to cure this poison? The third elder hurriedly asked. Xiaolong's situation was already miserable enough, so he had to save his life no matter what. The doctor's expression was full of helplessness, and his dark eyes were filled with shame. Forgive my poor medical skills, but this poison, I'm afraid I can't cure it. Even though he had discovered some clues, he wouldn't have noticed it if it weren't for Nangong Yuching's reminder. Now, it was even more impossible for him to remove it. Hearing this, third elder loosened his grip on the doctor's hand. What kind of person is Bailey Hongzhuang? Her poison is so difficult to detoxify? He was also very clear about the ability of the family doctor. Since he was helpless, it proved that this poison was very clever. Ordinary doctors would not be able to cure it. I only heard that Bailey Hongzhuang performed extremely well in the alchemy competition and became an 8th-grade alchemist at such a young age. Her future is limitless, and she received the courtesy of the Alchemist Guild and became a deacon. It's just that even though alchemists and doctors have thought it through, there's still a certain gap. The great elder's expression was complicated. Bailey Hongzhuang's name was now quite famous. As early as in the alchemy competition, she had already been in the limelight, but in terms of medical skills, she had never heard of it before. Chapter 5193. After she treated him, his injuries healed quite quickly. Following Nangong Hingyang's words, all the cultivators present nodded their heads. Regarding this point, they deeply felt the same way. Nangong Zhenkuan and the other elders looked at each other. It seems that Di Yujua's daughter-in-law can't be underestimated. That's right. With Bailey Hongzhuang, the Di family's alchemy skills have been completely filled. The head elder couldn't help but sigh. It seems that we need to think of a countermeasure. No matter how powerful Bailey Hongzhuang is, how can we just let her poison my son like this? The third elder couldn't help but refute after noticing that everyone was starting to fear the Di family. He didn't care who the other party was. Now that Nangong Xiaolong had become like this, as his father, how could he not seek justice for his son? Third elder, don't be impatient. We need to think about this at length. Nangong Zhenkuan's expression sank. Conflicts between the younger generation were mostly resolved by the younger generation. If the elders were to make a move, they would be at a disadvantage. What's more, if they were to make a move, the Di family's elders wouldn't just sit by and watch. It wouldn't be easy to achieve a certain effect. When the third elder heard Nangong Zhenkuan's words, he naturally understood what he meant. His heart was filled with depression, but the anger in his heart grew even stronger. No matter what, he had to avenge Xiaolong. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to swallow this anger. Third elder, don't be too anxious. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others want Xiaolong to apologize to Bailey Shi. As long as he apologizes, perhaps the poison will be cured. Nangong Yuching slowly spoke. Di Xiaofeng had spoken to him before, and when he talked to Nangong Xiaolong was quite confident. He believed that there was hope for this matter to be reversed. But Xiaolong is already like this. You want him to apologize? The third elder frowned. From his point of view, he didn't feel that Xiaolong had done anything wrong. Asking him to apologize to a girl from the Bailey family was also a kind of humiliation. Third elder, let's invite other doctors to treat Xiaolong first. If they can cure him, that would be great. If they can't, then it won't be too late to go to the 100 Lane clan. The first elder spoke out to persuade. Although the third elder was still somewhat unwilling, he could only nod his head. So far, this was the best solution they could come up with. While the Nangong family was trying their best to find an outstanding doctor, there was another power that was also frantically searching for one. When the head of the Chu clan, Chu Yifeng, found out that his son, whom he was so proud of, had actually damaged his foundation in the immortal cloud secret realm, causing him to be unable to advance his cultivation, he was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. "Father, sorry for making you worry about me." Chu Yingming had an ashamed look on his face. Normally, he had always been cautious. He didn't expect that he would make such a big mistake this time. "Yingming, don't worry. Father will definitely find a way to cure you." Chu Yifeng's expression was firm. This was his most treasured son. Almost everyone believed that as long as Chu Yingming developed well, he would definitely become the next head of the Chu clan. How could someone like him have such a problem? Chapter 5194. When Chu Yingming first found out that his foundation had been damaged and could no longer increase his cultivation, his heart collapsed. Even though he had always been very rational, he was also very proud. Thinking that he might not be able to increase his cultivation in the future, he even felt that it would be better to just die. Otherwise, what use would it be? However, gradually, his mentality changed. No matter what, he had to try. Perhaps there was still a chance to cure him. Even if there was no chance, he couldn't just die like this. Otherwise, he would only become a joke to everyone. "Why are you still so polite to your father?" Chu Yifeng's eyes were full of affection. "Have the family doctors already treated you? What is the situation?" "They can't find the specific cause and can't solve this problem." Chu Yingming sighed. As soon as he came back, he went to find the family's doctor. As long as this problem could be solved, he didn't care about anything else. Unfortunately, the result was still so despairing. "Right now, they have already gone to find other doctors for me. I will wait for news in the family." After hearing this news, Chu Yifeng's face also became a bit gloomy. As a cultivation family, the family doctors were naturally not bad. If even they couldn't solve this problem, it could be seen that the difficulty was not small. "Yingming, don't be too anxious. There will always be a way." Chu Yifeng patted Chu Yingming's shoulder. His deep voice was filled with determination and confidence, making Chu Yingming feel an indescribable strength. Although the problem of foundation damage is very difficult to cure, there are still cases of success. As long as there is a way, no matter what price I have to pay, I will not hesitate. "Father." Chu Yingming's heart suddenly fiercely jumped. Facing those eyes full of affection and confidence, he only felt his heart was very warm. There was a feeling of hot tears in his eyes. Normally, Chu Yifeng was very strict with him. After so many years, he had almost never heard any praise from his father. He thought that after returning this time, he would inevitably receive a scolding from his father. He didn't expect that at this time, his father would reveal this side of him. This made him feel disbelief, but it also made him feel warm. Chu Yifeng smiled faintly. "I am usually quite strict with you because I want you to succeed. In the next few days, you should have a good rest. It's good to have some rest." "Yes." In the following period of time, one doctor after another was invited to the Chu family in order to solve the problem of Chu Yingming's foundation damage. However, in the end, all of the doctors shook their heads and helplessly left. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't help Chu Yingming successfully break through. This sort of situation caused Chu Yingming and the others to become even more discouraged. "Family head, I heard that the D clan's guest physician, Wu Weiming, is extremely skilled in medicine. Back then, Madame B's illness was extremely serious and many doctors were unable to treat her. Only Wu Weiming was able to think of a way. Young master's current situation is so complicated. Maybe Dr. Wu Weiming has a solution." When the Chu family elder saw that the group of doctors were helpless, he couldn't help but think of Wu Weiming.